David, thank you very much for coming on the show this afternoon. I want to ask you about this latest news of Nigel Farage deciding that he will not stand as a Reform UK candidate. Instead, his interest is in the US election at this time. What do you make of that? What do you think the implications for the election are?
Well, first of all, it's a rare Rishi Sunak win here, right? It's the one silver lining in an otherwise storm-ridden skyscape. And I think what we see here is that actually what this will probably do is mean that Reform's polling won't have the 4 or 5 point boost it would have if Farage came back. But that still leaves Reform polling between 10 and 14%, which is devastating for the Conservatives. And it's coupled with this idea that for every voter the Conservatives have lost to Reform, they've lost a voter to Labour, the Lib Dems and the Greens, and also a voter to apathy. So the Conservatives are still split 3 ways.
And yet, when UKIP won 4 million votes in 2015, the Conservatives were able to win a slim majority. They were, of course, able to squeeze a lot of that UKIP vote with a story about how Labour might get into coalition with the SNP. I suppose the Conservatives this time around need to find that bogeyman to dangle in front of Reform voters that they haven't perhaps found yet.
Well, they hope they've got it, don't they? In Keir Starmer, we saw yesterday Rishi Sunak say Keir Starmer made pledges when he wanted to become Labour leader that he's gone back on. And now he'll be saying to Reform voters, look, if you vote Reform, you'll get Labour. And they're still the same Corbynite party that, you know, we all defeated in 2017 and 2019. I don't think it'll work this time. First of all, because people are so sick of the Conservatives. They feel so let down by the party, but also coupled with the fact that actually Keir Starmer does seem like a much safer pair of hands than Jeremy Corbyn ever did.
Yes, and Keir Starmer will be forced to put more meat on the bones when it comes to his policy priorities and his policy pledges. Are we likely to see that happen when it comes to Keir? If you were advising him on his strategy for this election, would it be to continue to be vague on some of their pledges or to set it all out for us?
I think probably he's got the space to be vague, firstly, because he's got a massive poll lead. So he doesn't necessarily need to set out in complete detail because the public are already saying that they want Labour over the Conservatives. I do think that the left of the Labour Party will become increasingly disgruntled. This might provide an opening for somebody like George Galloway or for various left-wing independent movements, but I don't think they'll do very well. I think this is really a change election where people have broadly made up their mind. They've made up their mind that they don't like the Conservatives and they'll vote for whichever party will keep them out in their given constituency, which is good for the Lib Dems as well, because even though their polling hasn't increased much nationally, they're doing really well in the seats that they need to do well in.
Rishi Sunak has gambled here. Clearly gambled, but I suppose he had a very slim set of options to start with. What needs to happen, really, to change the narrative? I suppose there are 2 schools of thought in sort of the study of elections, that elections just show what fundamentally people think, or that elections actually change minds. I suppose, again, 2017 was one of those elections that showed that elections can actually change minds. A lot can change over the course of a campaign.
Yeah, so what happened in 2017 was that actually the election campaign was the first time most people paid attention, or most people who don't follow politics closely paid attention to who the leaders were. And they liked what they saw in Jeremy Corbyn, not enough to give him a majority, obviously, but not enough to give Theresa May a majority either. Rishi Sunak is already a well-known figure, and I think people have generally made up not only their minds about him, but about the Conservative Party as a brand. And I think, you know, the idea being that parties can claw back some vote share in the campaign is true, but they can also lose vote share. And it's not as if the Conservative Party MPs have any reason to be harmonious now. As you were saying earlier, many of them feel really hard done by this snap election.